is the oboe and the bassoon. So they're both double reed instruments, which means that the reed is made of two pieces of wood that are put together, and then the air goes in between them, making them vibrate. The clarinet and the saxophone, which we'll talk about tomorrow, are single reed instruments. So the reed only has one piece of wood, and it goes against the mouthpiece and then vibrates that way. The oboe dates back to around the 1600s, so it's pretty old. It's made of African blackwood, which is the same kind of wood as the clarinet is made out of, so they look kind of similar. But it can be plastic too, just depending on how durable and sturdy you want it to be. The thing about oboes is that they play higher than most people think. The flute plays the highest part in a woodwind ensemble, and oboe comes right after that, but it still plays pretty high notes. The high voice type for a female singer is called a soprano, and I remember, and that's what I sing, and I remember learning about the oboe and realizing that the oboe really plays the exact same notes that I sing, and then I started exploring music that had soprano and oboe together, and I just really love the sound of it. The oboe kind of has a voice-like quality to it, and so the voice and the oboe work together really well. So I attached a song for you guys today. It's called Love Songs for Soprano and Oboe by Jenny Brannon. It is a little new, it's a little weird maybe, but the sound of the two instruments together I think you guys will really like. It's one of my favorite combinations. The bassoon the modern bassoon arrived in the 1800s, so as far as woodwind instruments go, it's pretty recent compared to the flute, which we saw back 40,000 years ago. This is maybe only about 200 years ago. The bassoon really can play very high notes and very low notes, but it doesn't play high very often. Like, it's just not written for very much. For the most part, when you look at a bassoon, it's playing in a group of instruments, and it's playing the lowest part is usually what's going on. Most bassoons are made out of maple wood, so they look really different than other woodwind instruments. They kind of have a red tone, but the keys and the joints are made of metal, so in that respect, they do kind of look like an oboe or a clarinet. The bassoon is actually large enough that it needs some kind of extra support. If you're playing sitting down, sometimes there's a stand that hits the floor, like a cello has a little stand, or there might be a strap that goes around the neck, or maybe even the chair. It has a really distinct tone. It's just kind of a unique sound that the instrument makes, but it rarely gets any solos. For some reason, when it's playing in a group, it just doesn't get a lot of solos. However, Stravinsky, who is a composer of the week we'll talk about later on, he had this really famous work called The Rite of Spring, and there is a really famous bassoon solo in there. In fact, the part of the music that most people will kind of recognize and hear and be like, oh, I've heard that before, is actually the bassoon solo. So I also attached that here so that you guys can kind of hear that. And check out what the bassoon looks like. So tomorrow we will wrap up with saxophones, but enjoy your listening to oboes and bassoons today. Bye.